Well. Good morning, West Ham fans. Russ on the West Ham Network. Hope you're safe and well. Isn't Monday a little bit more bearable when your team have won at the weekend, and now 2 Mondays on a spin. Now we've been pretty happy, and now we go into the international break where West Ham can't fuck our weekends up, or can they? Let's hope not. Let me address the elephant in the room. Flo's put the biggest plaster. Anyone who knows me knows that I'm the annoying family, or my family is an annoying family in the street that puts up their Christmas decorations far too early. Always Remembrance Sunday. It is always Remembrance Sunday. And I banged my head on the windowsill and I cut it and it started bleeding. So Flo went and got Florence by name, Florence Nightingale, went and got me a plaster, and she's got the biggest fucking plaster anyway. So anyway, yeah, there we go. I just thought I'd address this before the comments. What have you done? Maybe she's banged some sense into me. But I bring to you today the breakdown. Every game this season, us and Statman Ben, our channel analyst, he's scurried away over the weekend, putting all the data and looking at the key battles and all that type of information to relay back to you in terms of what was good, what was bad, what was ugly. And I'm not talking about my head. Obviously, another victory, another back-to-back wins now, 6 goals scored, 3 conceded, and it makes a better viewing when you look at the table, not in the positional sense, but in terms of the points and how we're getting close. I think we're something like 8 points off 4th or something ridiculous like that. I haven't properly looked, to be honest. But obviously, some goals and 3 different goal scorers as well, which is great. So, as always, what we like to do is we like to dissect it. We look at the match ratings, and we look at the Finalysis match ratings, and then obviously we look at things like the XG and all that type of stuff and what it means, and breaks it down for you. In terms of the Finalysis ratings, this is where we're up to, and again, you can feel free. Let's go full screen. Can I go full screen? Yeah, there we go. So these are Finalysis ratings. If you want to get involved, download the Finalysis app. You are then sort of asked for your West Ham credentials, so to speak, to ensure that we have just West Ham fans putting information up there just for West Ham. So it's a really good app, actually. It's really, really interesting. And lots of people, like myself and Stel and Gonzo's on there, and Sloth and Gracie, and there's loads of people on there. So it's really good. But you can see here, we've got the numbers are in. So these are the final Finalysis numbers. And you can see man of the match being Mateus Fernandes. With 77. This is out of 100. And then it was actually Thomas Souček off the bench was the next highest rated. And then Freddie Potts, Somerville, not a great game for Jared Bowen. I know he got 65, but that's pretty quiet for him, actually. Kilman got a 57, Paketa 68, Wilson 69, and you can read numbers yourself there. But you can see, decent-ish numbers, none in the red. Off the bench, Kyle Walker-Peters 69, Nuno got a 75. I think he got 80 something for the Newcastle game. So there or thereabouts. So not too shabby, Alonso. Let's look at the attack versus defence. So in terms of attack, we had an XG of 2.41, an XA of 1.67, 4 big chances created, and obviously we scored with 3 of them. Shot completion rates, conversion rate 21%, area of success 56, so a little bit light. I think it was about 60, 70 odd your last game, so a little bit lighter there. Defensively, an XGA, that's goals against, of 1.38. Ball recoveries 58, tackles in the final third 7, and goalkeepers post shot XG of 1.12. One of the things I was really happy about was just how many times we won the ball in midfield. How many times we actually did a sliding tackle, which was something of a dying art, really. No one really tackles, but we were. And how many times did Freddie Potts get a tackle in? I know there was one in the second half where Diouf tried it and he missed it a bit. Fernandes and it was great to see. I love a sliding tackle. More of that, please, West Ham. More of that. Right, let's look at the midfield. And actually, it's very similar numbers to last time, particularly in the attacking sense as well, in terms of the attacking movement. So 9.8 progressive passes, 84% completion rates, expected pass turnovers 10.2, progressive carries 18. And when you look at the attacking movement, I think it's almost identical. I think it was about 41% on the left-hand side, as you would imagine with like a 𝗔𝗚𝗔𝗜𝗡, maybe a bit more attack-minded, and Somerville obviously in front of him. Bowen very much, on Saturday rather, it seemed Burnley had his number. Hartman's a very good defender and didn't give him a lot at all. And I think actually, I think 𝗔𝗚𝗔𝗜𝗡 and Somerville gave the likes of Carl Walker a bit of a runaround. And, sometimes he had to just foul them because he couldn't, and that was encouraging as well. It was great to see, 𝗔𝗚𝗔𝗜𝗡 went down, it was all shit, but he got back up and he was okay. But very quiet game for Bowen, in all honesty. But these things happen. There we go. Why am I so small? These things happen, but it's what it is, isn't it? It wasn't he can't always have bangers, can he? In terms of these games, but what does that data points tell us? I mean, it tells us 5 key things. 5 things we always take away. 1, there's increased attacking sharpness. 4 big chances created and a shot completion rate of 21%. West Ham becoming definitely more clinical. Major improvement for earlier matches for sure. And when the XG often outpaced actual goals, that shows that you're becoming more sharp, which it is, that's for sure. And, I think, albeit, let's be honest, some of them are a bit fortuitous in terms of the goalkeeper parrying, but you got to be there to win it. You got to be in it to win it. You got to be around the box to get it in the old onion bag. In terms of balanced progressive plays, 9.8 progression passes and 18% progression carries per 90 shows a dual threat approach, which is great to see. So we're not just one or the other, we're passing and we're running as well. They're not relying on long balls or wing play, but building through multiple channels with confidence. And that's what we want. We want the ability. We want to see some balance. We don't just want to see one way, because if you're one way, then what tends to happen is, other teams can easily spot that, and then they can, put devices in play to stop that, and then you're sort of, shit, what do we do now? So there's a nice balance, definitely. And there was a lot of, nice passing as well. There's a lot of nice triangles. I mean, Fernandes and Paqueta, some nice little 1-2s where Paqueta would give and go, and would receive it back on the 1-2. I thought Fernandes had a fantastic game, absolutely fantastic game. And, there's a player and a half there. There is a player and a half there, without no shadow of a doubt. Number 3, smarter pressing and recovering. A PPDA of 12.2 and 22 ball recoveries in the opposition half suggest a more calculated press, allowing them to win the ball higher and sustain attacking pressure without overcommitting. And you could see several times, when, like, I don't know, Kilman or maybe Todibo was bringing the ball forward, the likes of Freddie, and to some extent, Magasu in the second half was dropping back, covering. So, if there was a counter-attack, there wasn't necessarily, we weren't short. I think a couple of times, to be honest, if we're being totally honest, I think Burnley were quite poor. There was several times where I think they could have executed their sort of counter-attack better. And we may have been in a different situation. We weren't, if my auntie and her bollocks had been my uncle. I thought we pressed nicely. I thought, the likes of Somerville was very, and Bowen to some extent as well. And the midfield as well. Sometimes when the ball was in the middle, sometimes they didn't press. And then sometimes they did press. So it wasn't always the same thing. Again, showing balance in terms of how we're pressing. No one can for 90 minutes can press. But it was orchestrated. And there was thought behind it, and that's encouraging for me. Number 4, defence still an issue. West Ham's defensive metrics show proactive ball winning, but the 2 goals conceded, especially the late one, highlighted ongoing issues with defensive transitions and concentration under pressure, particularly. And indeed, that last goal shouldn't have happened, and that did put a slight dampener. Winning 3-1 compared to 3-2 would have made a big difference, I think, with us particularly, but it hadn't. So it is what it is now, but we know the defence is still an issue. Obviously, again, Nuno decided to play with sort of inverted centre halves. again, I don't really see. I'd love to find out why that is, because you would assume that you'd want to have a more sort of natural body position by playing on your natural side. But look, I'm a fat bloke with a cut in his head, in front of a webcam, So, but I would love to find out a bit more about that, about the reasonings behind it, and I might I might talk to some people, and because it fascinates me. It's a really interesting thing. I've never, I can't remember inverted centre arse being a thing. So I'd like to figure out the reasoning for it. If it's for the, I assumed it's for the diags, So when Kilman's got the ball, his body is naturally, he's going to left foot sort of almost curl it into Diouf's path. And sometimes, a few times I did that. But is that the reason? Is that the only reason? I don't know. Because you'd think defensively you'd want to be on your natural body position. But anyway, I am splitting hairs. Let's go with number 5. Tactical maturity in attack transition. That sounds very complicated, but 41% attacks down the left and 34 touches in the opposition box. West Ham exploiting space intelligently, especially through Paqueta and Diouf, while maintaining threat across all zones. How many times was Diouf in so much open space on that left-hand side? And what I liked was it didn't take 3 passes to get there. It took 2 passes, or maybe even 1 pass, and that sped up that process and sped up the ability of Diouf to really sort of stretch the opposition. Probably more so on the right-hand side. It seemed very congested. It always seemed to be Wan-Bissaka had a man in front, and Diouf, and then Bowen was like alongside him, and there didn't seem to be as much space as there was on the left-hand side. And that's probably why 41% of our attacking stuff came down the left-hand side. So, right, okie dokie. So what do we need to do going forward? That's the question. What do we need to do in terms of the next step? Obviously, we're in the international break now. And so, it's now a number of players will be going on international duty, and we wish them all well. And we wish them all back safely. When we come back off the international break, we should have a fit again Mavropanos and Nicholas Füllkrug, who apparently is on the list of potential targets for AC Milan. We're going to talk about the Hammers headlines a little bit later on. But going forward, prioritise high quality chances, big chances created. That's what we need to do. Maintaining the focus on creating those big chances. We created obviously 4 in the last game, rather than relying on volume. Targeted movement and cutting edge are key to sustaining a 21% shot conversion rate and ensuring actual goals outpace XG consistently. So it's not. So it's about making sure don't just having a long shot. Don't just have a go. Make sure that it is a high quality chance rather than just a chance, if that makes sense. Number 2, exploit left flank overload. Somerville and Paqueta now continue to use the 41% down the left hand side as the primary structured attacking route, drilling the combination play between Somerville and Lucas Paqueta, then overlapping Diouf. That will ensure West Ham maintains that threat down that flank to break down compact defences. And I think that's what we'll see a lot more when I think we welcome maybe a lot of the teams around the relegation zones at home. Burnley was very different from a Newcastle. Burnley came to probably try and get a point. And it felt like at times, West Ham had a lot of ball. Newcastle, probably didn't have as much ball, but then when we did have it, we used it wisely. And I think, you're going to see, I assume the likes of Leeds, maybe not Sunderland to be perfectly honest, but Leeds at the moment, I imagine they'll be dropping down. Obviously, we'll have Wolves at home, we'll have Forest at home, we'll have these types of games where we need to exploit that overload, and that's a key attacking point for us, and we need to make sure we're doing it. Diouf's delivery is phenomenal. Let's be honest, he has got such a good whip on him in terms of that ball, and several times, and on the right flank, he was on the right wing for a couple of times when it was like a corner and it came out to the right hand side, and he put us a few on his right foot, and they were brilliant, and he just not that the striker didn't see it, whether it was Callum or whether it was Thomas or whoever, just couldn't just get there. But he is magnificent when it comes to those balls. Number 3, refine defensive transitions and concentration. Immediately address the ongoing issues of defensive transitions and concentration. Obviously, that led to the 2 goals conceded. This requires focused training on quick reorganisation and holding a defensive shape immediately after losing the ball. And we saw it with Newcastle last week, wasn't it? So for Newcastle, exactly the same thing happened. We had a situation where our levels of concentration went down quite early on in the game, and usually it is at the beginning of the first and second half. To be honest, that's when we tend to lose, tend to get goals conceded, and so you then get to a situation where you're chasing your tail, and that's 2 games in a row we've conceded, and 2 games in a row we've come back. But if we don't concede, it's easier. You only need 1 goal to win the game then. So it's about sort of that concentration. It is something which has plagued us all season so far. Next one, sustain the calculated high press, the PPDA. Continue the smarter pressing strategy to win the ball higher up. 22 as opposition recoveries last game. This allows the team to sustain attacking pressure and reduces the threat they need to travel to score, which makes sense. If you win the ball higher up, you're closer to the, it's more of a percentage game, isn't it? It's like that touch-finding kickoff, which people are doing now. We're not doing it, thank God, but the likes of Brentford are and people like that. It's a percentage game in terms of, where it's easy. If you win the ball higher up, you've got less space to travel to score the goal because you're already higher up. It makes perfect sense. And lastly, number 5, utilise dual progressive play, carries and passes. So continue to use both the progressive passes and the progressive carries. This balanced dual threat approach ensures opponents cannot simply just cut out long balls or rely on man marking wide players, forcing them to defend multiple channels. What we were saying before in terms of having those 2 options, it's difficult to defend both options for the opposition. So again, utilising that progressive play. And I just want to do a super note on Thomas Souček. Souček again, ole, and just some of the stats from his game yesterday. On Saturday. So, a goal and an assist directly is responsible for giving West Ham the 2-1 lead and setting up the third. Obviously the shot was parried straight to the path of KWP. Came on the 62nd minute and scored in the 77th. Then created the third goal in the 87th minute. His presence single-handedly changed the momentum of the game and secured the points. 2 goal contributions in 30 minutes, an extraordinary rate of production. And indeed, we're going to, at lunchtime, break down just what Thomas Souček has achieved during his time at West Ham. It's absolutely radio rental. So that's a little precursor to that. But Souček again, ole. And that was the breakdown, my friends. If you like what we do, if you like the breakdown, if there's any other data points you want us to bring out and talk about in more detail, let us know in the comments. Ben's always looking at the comments. He's obviously trying to adapt what we're producing in terms of getting you guys what you want. And speaking of what you want, what do we want? We want you to like, comment, share, subscribe, and hype. The hypes have been refreshed on a Monday. So if you've got a hype, give us a hype. Much appreciated. And more people can see what we're talking about. As I said, at lunchtime, we'll be doing a show talking about Thomas Souček and his West Ham career. And then we'll have Hammer's headlines. We'll also have the Academy show. And we're going to do a special in the Academy show about 𝗦𝗦𝗓. My boy was on the bench on Saturday. And a bit more about who he is, his life story at West Ham, all that type of stuff. And we're going to do a few of those with the Academy because I think you'll start seeing more and more of the Academy being brought into the first team. Obviously, 4 were training with the first team squad over last week. Idris, Ezra, Finn, and Mamadou Kante as well. And then we'll talk about under 21's victory against Liverpool, which was one of the most one-sided under 21 games I think I've ever seen. But anyway, take care, stay safe, stay warm, stay humble. Have a lovely rest of your Monday. I'll be back in a couple of hours' time. See you later, alligator.